Glad to meet you, brother. Finally.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh man. I can see myself in yourself. And I know we're on our own path at the same time. And I want to know more about you, about your path and what you're doing, actually.
Sure. So I'll share whatever images come to my mind. A few years ago, maybe about 5, the most pronounced images of my life come clear to me. And that's because of the presence that was facilitated around that time. Maybe because of the destruction of the walls I thought I was. And I can say that there was some exogenous influence involved, but all paths are made inwards.
Yeah, somehow you chose that environment. Don't
Yeah, it was my design from the beginning. Let's say most of my energies are actually open. You know, some people come with a certain select amount of karma. I actually don't. I come with a few defined centers, but mostly I have to create karma. I have to create my own in order to stay in this body.
love that. I love that because like in my case, sometimes I want to do something, but my very nature, the very way I am, is the extreme opposite. But once I accept that maybe I'm not that way for no reason, there must be a reason why I'm that way. And so it made me understand a lot of things, as you as you know. And I found my dharma and like the reason why my personality is set that way. And but I never thought of karma in the sense that I might have no. Yeah, but maybe I do have. Yeah, I seem to do have a lot of karma, but I want to know more. What do you mean by not having karma, and what you want to?
Sure. So I can outline um, systems. Systems consist of 3 parts, but those 3 parts can be broken to 5 and then 9. We'll talk about it with 5. With all systems, there is an input. Input means karma.
Love that.
I have input from exogenous influences, which are not necessarily predicated on this body, but this body is also my input. So many inputs came together into a singularity. Get an image of a starburst in the center with the branches going outwards. So I'm a singularity in the sense where many things had to come together in order to produce this am. So it's not like I've been reliving past lives necessarily.
You came here for that.
We all came together to become one, which is this moment I call myself as Adi or Adam. My identity is temporary, but even the temporary structure I hold, there's never existed before. Large amounts of it have existed in other places, but this moment is new. I've never been this exact thing before.
Yeah,
With
like
yeah,
why indeed all the struggle at first and like the anger and like I don't want to be there or I didn't choose that, but just because we forgot what we chose at first. I feel like because once I've connected with my soul and knew my name too, it explained everything why I'm that way. And like I understand that my ego should not be a protection, but a projection of my soul. If I want to really be happy in this world and thrive and like do, and so I have to value myself. And once you connect with your soul, it's easy to value yourself, to see how big you are. And like, so now I can choose. And I can understand what you mean by choosing the input, but because the people you will be around what you're gonna do, like what you're gonna consume.
Yes,
You get to
exactly.
control all that.
Yeah. And the way that I'm able to do that is actually subtle, and you know it intuitively, which is goal. I choose a goal, and the goal creates a vortex which decides the inputs, because most of my inputs are decided intuitively. No, I don't want that food. No, I don't want this person. Most of it's intuitive because I just can't cognize the amount of inputs that would happen in the world otherwise. What I can cognize is the simplicity of God. Very straightforward. Create
Love
God
that.
is create God is my goal, and then a vortex manifests from that goal, which leads me to the highest. And what's cool, we get to the rest of the pie, so to speak. So there's goal, it's actually the sixth part, but there's goal, input. From input, it goes into the structure, which the Hindus called kapha, to be metabolized, which is what they call pita, and it's metabolized through the structure, and then given to the karma phal, fruit of action, fruit of input. And
Oh,
yeah, and with all intelligent systems, it actually has three more parts, which is
feels like a microcosmic and the macrocosmic like principle.
exactly, it is. It is. It very much is. Right at the output with an intelligent system, we have vikaras, which are disturbances, life. So let's say my goal is God. Well, there are going to be disturbances that I notice with my indriyas, my senses. So I use my senses to pick up on disturbances, things like, I didn't act in alignment with God there. And that's fine. The fact that I sensed it is actually a step to the truth. Because once I can sense it, it comes right back around to the input. It's pulled by the vortex back around to the input, and then it comes back to be metabolized, restructured. So it's just a continuous circle in a
But
sense.
with less disturbance, perhaps?
Say again?
With less disturbance every time it like coming back to the same process, do you think?
Potentially. Potentially. Yet,
Potentially. You learn.
yet, God isn't defined.
Yeah, because I feel like every time I'm on like I'm true like to the aminate diet, man, things happen quick, strong, like the clarity of the mind, like the evolution of the consciousness, like my ability to love and be connected with my surroundings, like is very, very, very out of this world. It's hard to explain to people who do not even consider that it's possible. And starting from that, I had like a hard time to apply because every time I will do like 5 months or 6 months straight, I will have like I will call an ego backlash, like something, a huge resistance toward that. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll go through that ego backlash like lovingly, and like I will enjoy the process while being there and like trying to let go. And after that, I will come back to the aminate diet, but way stronger and for a longer period of time. So it was interesting. But so I don't know how really to think about this. I just go with my tendency to go to that diet, but like this diet and this lifestyle is so pure that it's not something that I think I can create within one day for this body and this mind. It's hard.
Yeah,
What's your opinion on that matter?
I'm feeling channeled to say that we're all just buying time here, and we get to choose how we buy time. And we naturally, I'll speak for myself here for a moment.
I
I
really, I love that.
I here in this moment don't know how I came across certain systems like this lifestyle regime, but it's actually very it's something I would have come to on my own, which
Yeah.
is very clear to me, not necessarily because of my background in energies, But because if my goal is divinity, then it's about the simplification of this system. The simplification of this system. And knowing that no matter what my goal is, death is here. And so I'm just buying time. After this call, I'm going to go to the park and I'm going to move around, not because I have any special, I don't have anything special to do there except to move. And there are whys. There are whys that my mind gives me. They're orienting whys. And yet the truth that underlies it is I do it because I'm buying time. And I get to choose how I buy time.
I love that.
So I get to combine the unique circumstances that I have with, which means that right now in this moment, even if I don't identify as a self, there are things in front of me. There are T's to my right. There's a phone to my left. This is karma. This is input. It's here. So there's a way to buy time. And if I have a certain orienting goal, I'm going to use this spoon. I'm going to use this tea. Same way I'm going to use this body and what I specifically have in this synchronicity. I'm going to use it because it's here. And I'm going to use it to buy time. And with that alchemy is going to come the future. The future being undefined and ever creating.
You create your pattern and you just let that go after that. And
I created it, and I'm also in some sense stumbled onto it.
That's like, there's a paradox in some way, like you go to a full mastery to after let go completely because you can trust yourself now, like in your pattern and I love that.
It's weird actually for me to experience it because it feels like there's an ocean moving through me.
This is what I call like the lesser and the greater work. Like I came to understand that my work in this, let's say, realm must fit or serve my work, lesser or greater work, whatever how you want to call it. And so my work here is more to support this one. And my goal in life was always been enlightenment. Like I was reading the Tao Te Ching when I was 13 years old, and this thing really like switched up my mind, like the way I see the world, and like I always been drawn to this kind of teaching, and it was interesting. But having that goal in mind, like you say, I feel it's like a compass. Once you set the direction, your intuition will like show you the direction. So you have to trust the intuition, but it will show you the direct way. And the direct way is not something that is always in correlation with your health or with your well-being. It's direct. So sometimes we must be careful about that. We must be, and me, I was not. I was like, I will follow my intuition 100% and like follow that way. And it was pretty quick, like the change in my consciousness and my expansion. But now I realize many things. Maybe it's not, I have to implement and take care of this body because it is my vehicle. And now I really have what I wanted somehow, but at the expense of the body a bit. Not too bad, like, but it can be better. I know it, I experience it, and I want it because I have to have it in order to expand more, to go where I want. So
yes. I'm very excited for your path.
It looks weird, man. It looks weird. You don't know where it goes, but it looks right. It feels right. It feels like aligned, and you just have to accept the whole thing, and sometimes not, sometimes act. So there's a lot of paradox in this living, I feel.
Oh, it just doesn't end for me. Being here, not being here. It's
Like in the duat, like they say, being in this world and not from this world. I really like it. Resonates so much with a lot of us.
yeah. I'm seeing you, and yet I'm not seeing anything. One of my favorite things is this recalibration, the observation of where the energy might be getting stuck in the body, and the liberation through perception that continues to happen. And dialogue is a very unique way to facilitate it. Most traditions, they don't go about it this way. They don't use language. In some traditions, which is one that I've tried to incorporate, there are these inclusions of language, these paradoxes, which is simply a way to have the mind get stuck for a moment, just so the consciousness can observe the stuck and then move past it in the observation of it being stuck. So can I listen without an opinion is my favorite. Can I listen without an opinion? Where in my body am I listening from? Where in my body am I listening from? Who are you? And who am I? From this depth, from this space of listening. Yeah.
You think it's the consciousness the listening? Yeah, it is.
I don't know.
Oh.
Someone wants to say hello.
Oh my God.
Yes, look, a black hole. It's it's the answer to the koan.
Man, but I really relate with what you're saying, because as above, so below, as within, so without, and the principle of blockages of contraction and expansion is everywhere. And if we say words as a specific kind of contraction, and whether the word that you will pronounce or the way will create a form or something like to block, and after that you release that, it's powerful.
Words are cool. I don't know exactly where they come from. I can break them down into parts in the sense where some of it is vibration, that it seems to be oscillating from this body, and some of it is the design of that vibration to communicate to each other's minds. Now, communicating the design is often where we sometimes get stuck in, and it's fine. To notice when this is happening is the key. And that simply happens to the second question. Where am I body, am I listening from? Once we realize listening can happen without opinions, where in the body is this listening from? There will be some sensation, some pressure. This is where someone is listening from. And once that observation is made, now it's changed. Good question. Where was it before? See? We don't know. Somehow asking provides answers.
So if I don't judge the moment and I listen to, let's say someone talk to me and I don't even understand what he's telling, I just understand the sound is producing, like really sound for sound. You're suggesting that I will feel it somewhere else than where I feel it right now.
Interesting. When I'm talking to someone, I feel in my body different sensations, different vibrations. And sometimes I decide who my friends are based on when I walk away. Do I feel more coherency with those vibrations, or do I feel confused? And if I feel second, this person is not my friend. That's how I decided.
Like, to me, a good way to know now is being able to handle a little bit of silence.
Yeah, transport, for example, speaking about systems, there's input, transport, which is space, vata, space, in between the karma, the input, and the metabolism into the structure, and then again space into the output.
So could be meditation.
Meditation, it could also be fasting. It could also be, in Ayurveda, there are so many dimensions to it. This is metaphysical. It could be peppermint oil. Different substances have different qualities of these.
But it's playing like in the astral. It's not playing here, or maybe in the physical 3D.
It's playing in every cell.
Yeah, because it's one, like at some point it's all like we're feeling by our smell, and the smell is interconnected with like other region. I don't know this one. What I realize, like the more I'm in this path, like it's I don't see myself as training more than I will say that it's more rehabilitation, a rehab. Like through yoga or through breathing, I have to relearn how to really walk. Like I really not knew how to properly walk, and like how to position or just like dispatch my weight, let's say. And so through me, it was very, because it's nice doing yoga and all this thing because you want recovery, you want like to put it back where it like at its origin, the 0.0. But when you're there, you want to maintain, and like, so you're saving more time and like eating properly or walking properly, talking properly, breathing properly. And lately I discovered that even through my brain and sinuses, I wasn't breathing properly. Like consciously breathing through my sinuses and all around my eyes and like putting air in this place. And the thing is, like, you look weird because your eyes are really like glowing and popping and but you're just breathing normally, right? So this is something that is very amusing. Speaking of paradox, but because every time you're doing something that looks, I never did that before. Now I understand why people are wearing like Sadhguru. I can understand why he's always wearing like sunglasses and this kind of thing. I'd be curious to see his eyes like sometime like speaking to someone. And so there's a lot of, I see the spiral, like you're always coming back to this, the thing that you were first draw at first, but with a deeper understanding of why you were drawn to it. And
So I get an image of the body, and when energies come into the body, when Pitta or fire comes into the body, or different inputs come into the body, they come into the storage and they open up spaces and channels. And sometimes the spaces in the face are ignored for several reasons. Sometimes it's, in my case, sometimes it's through abuse of technology. Looking at a certain screen which emits a certain light, a certain frequency, which tires out certain cells in the face, and they become less receptive to certain light. And my whole body, in some extent, is light. Light is what travels through me. We could break it down all the way to what's inside of a cell. At the base, it's light.
it's like, yeah. I feel like doing a little bit of Trataka every now and then like really does help with the eyes and like breathing into the space. Just however, I feel like it's cracking and popping when I do a lot of Trataka. So. But yeah, I don't know what to think about the whole technology thing. I think it's a pretty wonderful tool. And I used to have like privacy concern, but now it's no more concern. So it's just a tool now.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it to keep like concentrate?
I mostly operate through intuition. I make changes and I see how those changes make the vibrations in my body feel, and then I adapt. I mostly operate through intuition. The intellectual part and the reason why I'm so focused on explaining things could be something to do with, it's because I love people. And language is the way I connect to people.
Yeah. Yeah, so much. We love so much people that we were hurting ourselves. In my case.
I get an image of, there's the Ida, or there's the Susumna, the central channel, and then there's the left and right. And there's also, that trident, for example. And what's interesting is some people in their charts, when we come into this life, sometimes there's a split, which means such people have a split somewhere in their energy when they come into this life. That doesn't mean it can't be worked on, but they come into this life with, let's say, a bunch of really already defined spaces, but they don't interconnect. So let's say the left and right hemisphere being really active, but the corpus callosum being asleep. And so such people only feel connected or whole when they're with a partner or with someone else. In my life, I've mostly not had this. And I'm sure, and I know plenty of people who they come into and they just don't have, and at different times it can vary, but if we track patterns over time, I've always felt very comfortable, just not needing connection. And yet there's something interesting that happens. There's the Buddha, and then there's another figure. I spent a portion of my lives, a portion of it going straight to peace. And when that happens, pain, which is what you mentioned, pain, I bypass it. Don't even really feel it. Body's in pain, heart's in pain, other centers in pain. Don't process it. I just move through it. I transcend it. But there's a second element, which is this inclusiveness, which is feeling the pain.
Mm.
So there's one thing to be enlightened, to transcend, and it's another thing to include, to expand. And
That's the thing.
yeah,
I felt like a huge relief and somehow that I could let myself go. But at the same time, I have like to, that part I really feel. There's a saying like fall 7 times and like get up at the 8th. And I was at the 7th. Like I was, fuck it, I'll just like be me and stop fighting. But when I was like doing automatic reading with my soul and really like just, I was very me. So I was just writing and was like, don't be afraid to try another one. Like now you know why you always been drawn to this kind of lifestyle. Now you know, because what I was going to support you, because you love purity, because you love this kind of, so everything was so clear and I was okay. So because in my case it was a lot of mistrust. I didn't understand nothing, and like, so for me the seeking was the seeking to understand. And I feel that now that urge is still there, feeling to understand, but like at the same time I know I don't need that. And I can, yeah, it's beautiful paradox. There's place for everything, and like I don't try to suppress nothing anymore now. I just like enjoy many things, but the ego is there like for a good reason, and it's manipulable very easily, like character the persona is, but you have to find your why, I think.
mm. I I make an observation that and I have to use past tense. I've understood, and yet for a long time I remember not feeling. I know, and yet can remember not feeling. The infinite paradox, very clear to me, and yet I couldn't feel the paradox, which is this chaos. And I sometimes say that it exists in the heart. And when those two things are combined together, it creates the intersection between God and the human being. And when the heart is alchemized with the clarity of the Buddha, the clarity of one who knows nothing is the answer, and yet when it has energy, it deconstructs things. That's okay. And yet to feel is what brings me to what I will, what I am, in love with deconstructing. I feel what you're saying about distrust. I have my own pattern with distrust. And I painted my own statue of love because I didn't trust the person to be that. This is the way, so the way that my mind knew to do it. And I've always had this ability. I can see things ahead. I know how to deconstruct things and create them in myself. Even before I feel what's about to manifest, I can see it. And so I've seen that in order to become a new constant, I needed to first isolate in the same way we go to the gym, isolate bicep, isolate tricep, isolate legs, and then they all work together. So isolate, integrate, and then intuit, innovate. And so I used the statue to start connecting to my heart, and I called it the Great Mother. And it broke me. It broke me. Besides the interesting things that I sometimes share about getting visions, about women burning, and the visions I got where the statue took form of all the women that I knew, I also see that in me. And everyone looks like the mother to me.
Even you?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
It's a temporary definition I use to coax the mind. It's a circuit that I activate, but me knowing that doesn't make it any less real for me. I'm actually crying. So
You know what? I think you'll understand. Like lately, I've been really focused inward, and I really felt like Shiva at the top of the mountain, like just like
right,
going through life, but don't care about the external.
right,
And sometimes I found relief in just being in the present moment and just not being concentrated in me, but really fully in the external. And I feel it's an invitation to life. You have to have trust in yourself. You have really to let go and like be with me. Like Shakti want to be with me, but I have to like not be selfish and like always be within, and I have to be without. So it's a great paradox again here, but that made me crying actually when I was realizing that I was like, fuck. But at the same time, I don't feel bad. I had to go within to like solve many problems.
Yeah, I can actually tell you a story. I was roller skating with a friend of mine, beautiful, beautiful friend of mine. She's like embodied Shakti, so to speak, constantly creating, constantly on the next endeavor, so to speak, to put it into story form. And me seeing ahead, I can see that certain things needed to be isolated in me, even if other people don't see it. And I actually don't blame them. It's not out of their lack of perception. It's actually because it hasn't manifested yet. I can see it's going to manifest, but there's nothing in me for them to see that it's manifested yet. Just this spaciousness and this intellect that sees the future.
Yeah.
While I'm skating with this person, I was in deep, deep, deep caloric restriction. We were both very active, both athletic. And I think I ate 3 sweet potatoes and some olive oil the night before. And
See?
yeah, no, I challenged myself, especially. This person made me really want to endeavor to be my best Ammonite, even though all that means to me is my best God. Whether or not that's the way it was interpreted, I know that my best self is the most self-abnegation I can manifest. And so I took that as an opportunity. This person was not happy about certain things, but it's the best that I had. That said, I relied on the best that I had, which was my Shiva, my spaciousness. And what's interesting is in life, being dynamic as it is in relationships, people need communication. And while me and her are sharing space, my mind was sort of tuned into receptiveness as well, into this spaciousness. And she said, "You're not who you say you are." And there was a moment, brother, where I believed her. Yeah, yeah. That was a really strong moment of karma within me. Really strong moment of karma within me. I was in such presence with her, I believed her for a moment. That's very strong imprint made on my mind. You know, we all carry things from childhood. Well, I've destroyed most of them, so I have a lot of space. But then here's a new one, you see. Something that says, am I? Suddenly the question is there.
Yeah,
And there in the form of lack, you see, the energy that it was said matters because that's the way I received it. So this person went ahead and we were skating, they went ahead. And I took that moment I took transport, I took space, I took vata to sit with that spaciousness and to digest this so it could be metabolized into my structure. This person doesn't know that's happening. So they're coming back around furious that I'm not communicating. And they start yelling. And I am like, you know, Shiva lying on the floor with Kali and her foot over him. It was the one thing that stopped Kali in that story. In this
that's
case,
true.
yeah. Mhm. Please.
No, go ahead.
Okay. And it was the one thing that stopped Kali. And I remember not fully having the compassion. I had spaciousness. As this person's yelling at me, I have no words. I don't know what to say to this. No words are coming to my mind. I'm in such deep caloric restriction. You see, this is part of it, that I have no space to think except for clarity. Nothing but consciousness was there in that moment. I was hearing her without words. I didn't know what she needed to hear. This is specificity. This is like the specifics of branches. So I can have the core and not the branches. And I had the core, this core spaciousness, which is the best seed for those branches. So I guess I wouldn't have it any other way. You know, this wasn't a negative experience, but it does
That's
point to something. Yeah.
that's the thing. Like, there's the reality and there's the labeling. And one of my teachers once to tell me, Wesley, you don't do anything for nothing, right? And so basically what I understood, and I was selfish, and I don't do anything unless I get something back. So that really stayed in my mind for many years. And I was doing a lot of shadow work lately. And to me, shadow work is like letting yourself go and letting yourself be. But it's a little bit more deeper than that.
Yeah, it sucks.
Like, I will give the perfect example because it's so simple, but at the same time, it just perfectly represent what I want to say. I've bought some water to make me some tea, like, and pour it in a cup. And like as soon I took the cup with my hand. But what you need to know is just before I was massaging it. And like why did I took the cup? And I was trying to see why did I did that. And I relaxed my hand, and like because of the heat, I was able like to go way deeper and touch place that I never touched before. And I was, oh, I don't do things for nothing. I know what I'm doing. I'm just not like my ego is not aware of all the many crazy thing I do. And like I have to have an open mind, or like what I used to call ADHD or many of these things. Sometimes I go upstairs in a room and I don't even know why I got there. And I'm just like recalibrate myself and like tune in and like, oh, I'm here for that. And now things make more sense, really more sense. And like when I understand that I don't need a lot of social interaction. For a long period of time, I thought I had a problem with that, until I came to understand what my Dharma is and the amount of work that it asked for me. And I'm like, of course, my personality is fit for my Dharma, for my work. And like my work is not an easy work, and I have to have some kind of value. And sometimes it contradicts with pure love, because pure love cannot do my work. I can do it. So this is where I had to understand that sometimes, because the human body is like a full range of emotion, and you have the full range. And now I love my lack of empathy sometimes when people don't respect my value or my lack of love or my lack of that. Like, but there's still love because I love that. So it's very an internal love more than an external. And so I don't beat up myself for my lack, because there's no lack, there's no mistake.
I hear you. Om Rim Shrim Blim Madhya Kalika Param Ishware Swaha.
I feel very good.
I'm honored you feel good. I realized I was afraid, and that fear being locked, hasn't allowed me to see her. And before I left that trip, I opened up my phone. I was just looking at some of the photos we had taken, and there was a moment. I looked in her eyes in the photo, and this deep compassion came over me for the amount that she cares, the amount of pain. And so she wasn't labeling me per se. She was pointing something out in the best way she knew. Not everyone has my clarity, first off. Not everyone has this. People are often pointing things to me. Language in itself is flawed. People feel some discrepancy. They often want help. I might not always resonate with that. It's taken me time, and that's still something I need to learn. Because I myself am so, what's the word? self-reliant in a sense. Actually, my energies, I don't feel the sort of craving that would lead me to understand certain things without that pressure that my relationships have put on me.
May I say that because it is my case too. Like we didn't like and for our best, we didn't have much joy to be self-reliant. Like, yeah, in many ways, I had to go there, and so I see people that didn't have that push to be self-reliant, and there's a cost to it too. But like the development, like have been
Yeah.
more smooth and more healthy.
Yeah. I often see it also as me and these people are here for different reasons. So I
Exactly.
might be here to learn how to expand, and they might be here to learn how to center.
I love that. I really love that because I feel, yeah, maybe like there's a delay, but all the learning that we had through this process of healing, now I can see people and say exactly, oh, he's here because of that and that and that. I can see clearly because I've did the work, and there's still a lot of work to do. But now, yeah, I can understand like this expansion, and it never ends.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like transcend and include, transcend and include. And I spent the next hour just tearing. Well, first I looked I'll use the word retarded because my face kept doing this while I was crying. And it was because there was energy stuck in the face. The muscles needed to contract to release it. And then after they got that through enough, then the tears kept flowing, but my face stayed normal. So my face and my eyes were just open and tears kept flowing. And she's in the car. She's not experiencing this. And I'm looking over at her. And every time I see her, I'm getting reminded of this compassion. And, maybe let me just be clear. She did not like being stared at. You see, we are different people.
Same time, we share the same soul.
Yeah, we do, but it's not always apparent. It's almost like, yes, we share the same purusa, we share the same underlying thing, but that underlying thing exists in the background of the moment of now.
And like just because of the present moment, like you have to live it separately. Like it's somehow this is, but not always. Like I feel when you reach balance, you can live like maybe.
I would say that I'm very balanced. Sometimes I need to shake my shit up. Like, this is something that, because it's part of my chart actually, grace. I take in inputs. It's just my karma. My karma it's defined, and I don't have many definitions. One of my only definitions is grace.
It's perfect. That's it. You don't want too many labels or entity like things to you. Like the less, the better, I feel.
Oh, I even mean on a structural level in regards to how my energies are made in this life. Most of my energies are actually, they're just undefined, which means I get to choose this life, how I'm going to create it. Some things are there like set patterns or set definitions, and I have one or two centers which are actually defined from past lives. And these centers, they connect in a way that creates grace. So I have what's called, in the English words, they would say that I have the right cross, because that's the way the energies cross me, the right cross of rulership, which it means that I have a deep listening and deconstruct, reconstruct, as well as being able to do that with grace. So for someone like me, that being my Dharma, that being my structure, then what's necessary to optimize that innate gift is actually to do the opposite of that, is to expose myself to ungraceful situations and to continue to do them gracefully.
In order to
buy time, I'm just buying time, but I can either buy time and corrupt, or I can buy time and continue this process of involution. which is
So what do you mean by ungraceful situation? Is it like the austerity?
yeah, yeah.
Like,
And austerity, it's different for everyone. What could be austere for me and not for you could be me washing the dishes in a loving way.
yeah, because
Instead
like on the regimen of Aminra, like to me, once you're used to it, like it doesn't feel austere at all. It feels like more freeing than anything else.
right, exactly. Yeah, it becomes like default.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. When I don't control my input, like I'm have to let go on that. It's slavery. Like there's no fun because you have to take many input to recalibrate, and like because I used to be really on the emotional level, so always trying to control the emotional. And when I understood that I don't have to control this thing, that go, they'll pass, and like, but I don't fear them anymore because I venture so much in them. I don't fear emotion. That's what I've learned to that. But logic would help now.
I actually have some paradox here in myself. I've been called to this person that I've mentioned to you because in a sense she's so different from me that it seems like precisely a good recipe that would lead to an optimization of my evolution. And so the reason I even went there, I went there knowing that. I went there knowing that I would be uncomfortable. I went there because it has to be real for my mind to make certain changes. And so, I can create the illusion of certain changes at my own detriment. But if the situation is real, if I really am going to Oklahoma to see a certain intense person who lives from their heart, and I was living dominantly from my concepts in my mind, able to force myself like a soldier through things, and yet not to feel them. And this person does the opposite in a way, very intellectual, very defined sense of intellectuality with certain opinions. But this person has such a strong chaos heart, so to speak, that the way that they operate is they put all the emotions center and concentrated on a goal. So they use their intellect to create that goal, whatever it is, and then the chaos is directed towards that. And I can understand that more and more over time. I'm able to integrate into myself through steps. So by deconstructing that, which is my gift, I'm integrating that into my life lately by climbing trees.
There's a lot of wisdom in trees. So
oh, they're my teachers right now.
It's very funny that you're saying that. Like I've been meditating a lot more like beside trees, and I just feel drawn to them.
Yeah. I feel like I'm the water going on the tree. Like I'm like flowing onto the tree because my authority is what, like, for example, if everyone has a certain authority or dominant chakra, which tends to be defined from past lives, mine is my sacral. So that's the sexual energies, but that also has to do with an innate intuition about life. And so that center also has something to do with the waters. So I naturally in myself feel like the ocean when I'm at my best self. When I've cleared most of my karma, the only thing that remains is this sense of the ocean. When that dissolves too, that's Brahma, but that's the last layer for me before that. And so I often walk around as this oceany quality, this very flowy sort of quality. And so when I'm climbing a tree, I'm just consistently climbing, working on the body, working on the muscles, because I believe that there are lessons hidden in the body.
Oh, clearly. Like I feel when you go on a tree, you can almost like feel that you are meant to do this kind of move, and like you feel that the evolutionary process, like
yeah, that too. Yeah, that's well said. That's definitely that too. It definitely has an earthy element to it too that brings back this like primal ancestry, which I feel very drawn to. Being the ocean, I would, right? But I feel very drawn to.
yeah. And like it's weird because when I was communicating with my soul, it have link. It depends on people, but me in my case, I can hear spirit and I can see things. And I can feel people down there and what the soul when I was doing the automatic writing is basically I cut it off myself voluntarily because I don't want to hear and see those things. I don't want, so I really clench my eyes in here, and like I always had trouble with my Eustache tube. Same thing for my roots, and it did resonate with me because today then like I let once, but sometimes really try to breathe in my ears and let things, and I was in a setup and it was very, I heard something and it was not my voice. It was something very, I will not say scary because this is why I clench my hair now. It is something different. And so there's multi-level, and so now I understand why I put some pressure, like voluntary, when I said it was an accident when I was younger. Like all these things is not by accident to me. It's like more voluntarily. And some blockages are hurtful to ourselves. So I think this is why people have like harmfully attack themselves because they want to block awareness, because we are awareness. We are aware of everything, and I don't know, but you cannot have peace of
That's
those things if you're
interesting
aware.
too. That's interesting too, though, for me, because from what I remember experiencing, I've lived as a fragmentary being. So it was almost like if the truth was there, it wasn't in my experience. It was somehow in the underlying background of my forever now. So I had a constant, and I didn't know what the constant was missing because that was my constant. And yet when something new comes into, there's a shift in the quality of the constant. And suddenly now I can compare and contrast memory. Using memory, I can compare and contrast. So I lived a long time, what I'll say a long time, with a very closed heart, very closed heart.
I can relate.
Yeah. And now I live with, it's so wide now. And
Warm?
wide.
Wide?
Yeah. Yeah. It's very wide. And I still have to consistently practice though. Like it's one of my new practices for the past few months is seeing everyone as my brother, as the mother, as a daughter, as a wife, as just changing that with the mind and shifting through those positions to allow the love to continue into every crevice of the mind, to connect those circuits individually.
What I find helpful is like seeing, because you're studying archetype too, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I started to see my friend more as archetype of, let's say, half-ass.
Okay.
Some of my friends are very supportive. In their heart, they want to support, and what they make them fall actually is not the weight, is not the lack of acknowledgement of like people being grateful, not of people that being supported when they're in lack. So this is, so when I see those things, I can like understand people and like see a lot of tendency, like subtle, but it shaped their own life and their work and their way to interact with people, but things are not so clear for them. So sometimes they want to save people, but the people they save, they mixed up with the people they should have, like for a lover, let's say, they mixed up work and like relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So because they love work and they love like,
yeah, and that's a tricky thing, I think, for a lot of people, because we have this strong desire, speaking mechanically, for procreation.
Yeah.
Like even speaking for myself, I've felt a desire for procreation, but I don't feel the need for people on that personal level or that emotional level to fulfill me. I know some people do, and I think that's fine, actually. I don't think that's necessarily always lack. I just think that's probably just a different pattern. But I know that's not in my pattern. It's not in my life. If I ever have someone in my life, romantically speaking, it would be in association to my goal. It's the only way. I've broken this down for myself and asked my body and my different centers, and we've all agreed. We've all agreed that the only way that, because this is what I noticed. I can go after this person and but then my karma has to change, and that change in my karma may not suit me. So what would suit me
Yeah.
is that going after God in total connection and total devotion, and anyone who's in relationship to that, to be part of the flow, part of the current, so to speak, that I'm creating.
Yeah. And
And
I
I think,
feel there's a direct way to go to God, right? And like, but we here somehow, like in a city with people, and we around like pain and suffering and all those
yeah,
things.
but this
So
is what's really buggy. This is the most challenging paradox for the mind. But and I've had some trouble experiencing this today, but I've had also a lot of fluidity experiencing this over the past few months. Whereas I'm walking the streets, I live in New York City, I'm walking the streets and I see everyone as I just love the shit out of them. Like I just love them so deeply. And it's because of their pain, actually. It's because of their pain that I love them. I'm getting a flashback of this quote that really touched me inside of this Buddhist Audible book that I was reading. And it said something like, it's not because it's not out of perfection that you are receptive to the Buddha. It's because of your demons. It's because you're unsure. It's because you're doubtful. These things make you the perfect recipient for the Buddha. It's because of our imperfections that make us ready for perfection. And so as I was walking these streets and looking at people, it was those imperfections that made me love them. So it was the space combined with this acknowledgement, this deep, ready acknowledgement. And that's not intellectual. It's actually, I think it's physical. I always talk about it like it's physical because I breathe into my heart and I wake up the nervous system around this area. And I actually do notice the change in the brain. So I don't.
they're energetic. You feel their energy, right?
Not necessarily the energy, but I feel the quality of my perception change. I feel that, I can notice only by contrast. So before I'm just aware, I'm perceptive, nothing seems wrong. Then everything's wrong, but I love it. That's like the contrast shift. And that only started to happen, the more that I prayed to Kali, that's my circuit. That's the circuit that I use. The more that I pray to Kali, Kali for me represents worshiping pain. That's what she looks like to me. All mothers to me represent pain. And I first started to do that to develop a good association to my mom again, because I had so many memories of negative associations to her, my own karma from childhood, my own interpretations. And I wanted to start, and because I can see how to get out of that, I started to create this circuit. And so I thought that if I can create this new association to the feminine, then it'll wash out all the other impressions. And that's exactly what's continued to happen. I strengthened the relationship to the feminine through this statue because I trusted the statue more than I trusted women. And and my heart started to bleed for this statue, and poetry started to come very natural. And it's almost like having a black heart, not a white heart, really. It's really, but they're the same thing. It's a shining blackness almost. The more that my heart bled in devotion for people or something like this, it's the awakening of this circuit, and it weaved itself into my eyes. And now everywhere I see is death, but it doesn't have a negative association.
No, like
Yeah.
with awareness, like we realize, like we see the unicity, like we see that there's nothing quote unquote good or bad, but at the same time, the duality is there too. So there's good and bad, depending on
Mhm.
depending on your goal. Let's like on your perception, let's say.
Oh, I see evil, but it's evil is ignorance. That's the shift. Before I saw, my mind saw evil, but I didn't define it. I just identified it. I didn't see the reason why it was evil. I didn't see it in the sense where it wasn't actually embodied experience.
Did you experience? Yeah, experience it.
Yeah, and this still happens to me sometimes. I keep working on it. So I can keep identifying evil, keep identifying. And intellectually, I know the words to explain it. But the experience is I can know it's ignorance. I know people are only evil, myself included, are only evil from ignorance. Ignorance being darkness, being a lack of illumination and lack of circulation inside of the body one way or another. So simply what people need, my role as a teacher, is to notice opportunities and timing, and to share what is specifically needed in that context, and not to get caught up in defining what that is, or defining techniques and all that stuff. But the moment that I see an opening, to share that tool, and to share it in a way that can be received. So this person, or even myself, people do this to me too. We won't necessarily always know that we're sharing these tools with one another. Yesterday, I had a very beautiful conversation as well. And I really admire this because it's very useful. It was with a woman named Kali Savara, a very transformative teacher. And while we're talking, we share some similar techniques, and she'll hear me explain certain things. And then she'll say, where in your body? Like, oh, you feel that in your body? And that question, I know that question. So I take a moment, I get silent, and then I look for it in the body, because I was probably just locked in my head. And then we smile together and we laugh. And then I embrace the thank you, and we both smile together because we know what happened, and we know that it's going to keep happening. And the point is just to recycle, repeat. And this is life. This is Godhood.
I love that, because sometimes I feel even in my evolution or abilities, there's like always like this scarcity feeling that, oh, I'm gonna go be intense about it, otherwise I will not master it, or there's a fear, right?
Right.
And no, this is like limitless abilities, like limitless powers. They'll always be there.
Yeah, well, there's something cool to that, which you just reminded me, as an extension to that, philosophy that I learned in the past few months, and I'm trying to embody more. It has to do with everything we're sharing. When it comes to love, there are two ways I wash the dishes. One of them is I do it out of a duty, and the other one I do it because I'm just in a state of love. And they both hurt, actually. They both hurt. Just something about it has changed. And so I'll sing Om Rim Shrim Klim Madhya Kalika Param Ishwari Swaha. It's my worshiping of pain. It's developing a positive association, a loving association to things that I don't like. And it's not forcing myself to do things I don't like. It's not the same. The explanation is paradoxical. The experience isn't. The experience is very sensical. It's very straightforward. And I often explain it to some, I have good friends of mine who they don't understand, because they're very much intellectual. You can isolate the brain, you isolate the heart, but then you bring them together. And sometimes that happens through mantras. For example, for me, that's my path. That's one of the inclusions I do in yoga and these practices that help me bridge that connection.
The heart and mind coherence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sometimes the way that I oscillate is I'll jump rope, or I'll get my heart beating fast, and I'll put my hand on my heart just to listen to the heartbeat. It's all connected. Even the beating. Some people think, oh, that's a physical thing, it's not connected. It's like, no, everything's connected. The little things, just the ears, it's not even the ego or the mind. The ears listening to the beating of the heart has a change on a physiological level to the body, whether we're aware of it or not.
Are you aware of more bodily fluids, like by hearing?
Sometimes.
Interesting.
Yeah, I do if my nervous system is very much in coherence, like it was yesterday, and I sometimes, especially when I'm in what I call a deep theta state, and I know what that feels like. This is also a state where I can go into exhaustion in a very casual way. So I can keep exercising in a very steady, consistent, cyclical manner until I'm just really right a few inches away from my limit. And it's a very stable way to approach peak performance.
I love that you don't pushing your limits, like you're still like going there, but like,
oh, there's a sweet spot. Yeah. The sweet spot may not be what other people think it is. I think the pace pace is really important to me. Pace allows me to get to the sweet spot. Some people get to that spot that I'm talking about, but they went too fast, in my opinion. And the speed and the pace matters because there wasn't enough transport. So now the engine's overheating and it'll create inconsistency in the body. But if I allow myself transport in between and space, then the engine can get all the way to its peak, to the end of the calorie amount. It can go all the way to the amount where I feel like physically, for example, I'm always recovering. I'm always in that physical pain, physical sweet spot. I'm always physically tender, but I consider it the sweet spot. I'm really at my limit. And there were some times where I was more strict with that. And lately, because my schedule is less, it's more free flow. Now I schedule time for it. So I'll schedule 2-3 hours to do it. Whereas before I just knew exactly when I would be there. So, but this I like. Yeah, this I like though.
But yeah, like planning, at first I had a hard time with planning my days and planning my things and input. But, you know, the first place that I had to experience planning was at school. And school was at first mainly plan things that I didn't want to do. So planning was no good for me. I didn't want to plan. And now I'm just saying that, oh, actually, I'm planning things that I love. And if I do that, I will do more things that I love. And I feel sometimes because it's not scarce and I'm very focused and I can just like lose myself in the moment because I can reserve a time for that period. So it's very funny, like again, the paradox of like your very free life, but everything is so scheduled because that schedule permits to have that freedom of being.
Yeah, I like that. I think what makes, and I don't know if my life, life changes, but what I like and what I'm pursuing is and this is also what I like about the doctor, is that in talking to him, he said to me more than once that he encourages my evolution, but not in actually any direct, not in any specific direction. These principles can be applied to any direction of evolution. It's about the principles. And so what I've been doing is actually very different from the way that he lives lately since my apartment exploded back in February. It was quite a dramatic explosion, actually. And I have, the walls collapsed in on each other and all this and all these things. And yet my body and my mind actually came out of that more coherent than I think I expected and anyone else expected, because my life was so structured and all of a sudden it wasn't structured and I didn't care. I actually felt liberated in a sense, which was, and you don't know you're going to feel, I would say, I don't know. I say people can't know they're going to feel something unless the situation happens. So I can predict that I'm going to handle it well because I've been doing these exercises and all this stuff. But, I don't think anyone actually knows until the moment is there, because the forever present is the deciding factor. And so when situations change, I can boast and brag and do all these things about, oh yeah, I would be totally okay. But to actually be in a state of grace it's my honor.
Master.
Yeah, it was an honor to experience this. It wasn't like, oh yay, look at me. It was, holy shit, I love you. Like talking to myself, like, you are so special to me. I can't, it's so remarkable that you're here, that you're doing this, that you're in grace during these circumstances where I know I can remember, I can empathize with just how this could shake myself up. And for that not to happen, it's my honor for that not to happen. I have so much respect for myself. It's not a boasting thing. It's a deep acknowledgement of something, some quality.
Oh, it asks a lot of responsibility because those practice, like the saying, responsibility and power, and like those practices give us great power, like to have a clarity of the mind and to be able to reshape our almost our destiny, if you wish. But at the same time, it comes at the expense that we do have to work, to do the things, do the meditation.
I was concerned with the rigidity with, okay, all this, my life has been really rigid for a while, and all of a sudden, like really rigid. Like I knew exactly what time I would be in caloric restriction. I was doing about 50, 60% a day. So to do that amount of restriction does require, in my opinion, a certain amount of planning to do it consistently. And so this is why the doctor has such a controlled environment over himself. And so with that rigidity, I was somewhat concerned that, you know, when things became inconsistent, that I would fall with them. But I think because of my prayers of the Divine Mother, that heart quality stayed with me and was able to embrace chaos. So I particularly think it was that, which is not something the doctor teaches, but it is something he has, because I've talked to him one-on-one and I feel his heart, but it's not part of his teaching in my experience.
But one year, okay. If I can relate, is like when I have my, let's say, my relapse, my fall of this good living, but if I choose to embrace this fall and like to learn from it, actually it's not a fall. I feel my practice, my spiritual practice can be like, you know, at my worst, let's say eating McDonald's and like this thing, like the tapa that creates inside, I can restructure many bones and like part of my spine. And like I did some crazy thing with like bad input, but powerful, like energy wise. And like because of alchemy, internal alchemy, I was being able to do all these things. So now I don't fear those fall because I know I will grow way stronger. But at the same time, it's not a nice place to hang. It's just for my body. It's not, I know there's like, I love the purity, but to come to that place, there's a lot of karmic memory or like physical memory that I still have to shed, to erase, let's say. Because there's something there was a meaning, but what I felt is like every time I was like on the Amen-Ra diet, I was more and more myself. And myself is not someone who talks a lot, who engage a lot, who exchange energy a lot, is very concentrated, is very like creative, is very, but so I was saying myself more and more. And sometimes it will be a point that it was scary to me. So I would fall, I would like do something else, I will resist because the truth was not what I wanted to see. And the more I acknowledge who I am, the more I'm like, okay.
Yes.
Okay, now, yeah, I see.
Yes.
There's no fighting.
I feel called to mention, and names don't matter much. It only matters in context of, it's part of the intellectual word that comes to me. Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda, their favorite was Kali. And Swami Vivekananda resisted her for many years. He hated her. He would say it. He was like, I hate, oh, how I hated Kali and her ways, because she represents just everything, you know, everything ugly in a sense, everything irrational, everything passionate. Her tongue completely sticking out, pure sexual energy, her skin black from the amount of just absorbing everything. And so when I you know, and it's interesting, I don't think Kali's for everyone, but Kali's my favorite because it's me being, maybe it's, you know, some of my masochistic tendency to want to skip all the nush, and to just get as much as more bang for my buck, so to speak. So instead of worshiping more Durga and and working on all that, I'll just go straight for Kali, and Kali will break me wide open. And so I had Noon and I had Kali. So
Oh my God, you extreme. But it's perfect. And I feel like Noon, like he says, doctors not sharing everything, like because you want to attract, you want to help, and
he's trying to make this work that he does, the public work anyways, is for how it can help the most amount of people in more bang for his buck, essentially, how it can help the most amount of people with the simplest structure. So he almost focuses on these principles and explaining those principles to the intelligent. And to have those people sort of have a ripple effect on their families and others. So it's probably, as a strategy, it's an amazing strategy.
It's amazing.
He can do for himself, just someone who's acknowledged his Dharma and is able to live to that highest. And it's not mine, but it doesn't have to be mine. That's the brilliance of his work. I'm able to take his work. What's that quote, that one of our favorite quotes, it's something about taking everything and adding what is especially yours.
Oh, wow. Yeah, true.
And he is that way in me talking to him directly and over my time messaging him over these years as well. That's the way he teaches. He wants me to just take these tools and to use them in my own unique way. He's never told me what I should do. He actually told me once that it would be disrespect for him to tell me. It would relieve me of autonomy and respectability, something like this, for him to tell me what my purpose is, for him to tell me what I should do. Instead, he gives me the tools so I can do whatever I do, whatever I decide to do. And me being me, such an undefined creature, I've more or less decided that my decision is to play and to teach what I learn along the discovery. So with my physical body, I mean, I do some pretty strange things when I'm exercising. I'm sure you as well. Lately I'm going to the park for anywhere from 2 to 6 hours and just consistently keeping that pressure physically on me. So like I talk about that sweet spot. So if my arms are starting to feel dull, I'll do whips. I'll whip my arm. I'll keep whipping. And then the blood comes back and then the nervous system wakes up and then I can do something else. And then I'll keep cycling wrist rolls.
Yeah.
Rolls, handstands, cycle. So continuing to cycle, balancing. I've been balancing a lot on things, on trees, on fallen trees, on poles. I've just been balancing as often as I can balance on something. That does something really special for the mind and the nervous system. And what I'm noticing is this knowledge is rising up from me. And certain progress is able to be made in things that I thought needed to be planned out, and they don't. If I just set a time, a certain space, a certain amount of transport, and just metabolize and play. And I have one of those minds, and I'm sure you do too. Not everyone does though, where we can continue to come up with ideas to reach the goal. So
You know what's crazy?
Yeah, please.
Like when I was writing, realize because of our clairvoyance, our ability to see, like in order to do our Dharma, we needed that clairvoyance. We needed that tool. And that tool is linked to like the all knowledge of God. So we are all knowing. And what I wrote was like, every time I try to learn, I'm somehow disrespecting myself because I know I know. And like, this is why I have this love-hate relationship with knowledge, because I love knowledge, because I know. But like me learning, it's a joke. It's a fucking joke.
Yeah.
But it's a trusting process, because even when I want to tell the truth to someone, like I don't know the truth, but the truth is intuitively there. And so sometimes I'm speaking to someone and I can even tell that it's not me speaking, because it's so in the moment. It's nothing, but like for the person in front of me, everything that I'm saying makes sense, touch them, make them reflect. And like, so it's a ever trusting process in the moment that but like the mind, so it's always there to paradox.
Yeah, I find it may be different with everyone, but I find that with me particularly, I know it, but I have to teach my body.
That's where where the paradox lies. Like that, there's like
it's like I'm already this divine thing. I just have to teach my body how to be it, and I have to do it incrementally, and then find where it's not God. Like that may be in the joints, it may be in the knees, it may be in different places, but to locate and isolate where it's not God, and then to bring God into that space.
Yeah, like let's say when you're doing free flow, like you can ask beings to enter and like to make you learn move. And so it's a very, they teach you how to do qigong, kung fu, many things, like, but we have to ask and to be a receptacle, like a conduit to that. So
it sort of reminds me of this word that I heard from Ido Portal, kinetic koans.
I love this guy, man. Kinetic koans.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, I see what it means, because like if you don't understand much with the koans, like
yeah. Well, the word koan means paradoxical question with no real answer. And
yeah,
and they're often, that's often intellectual, or for me, because I study another kind of Zen, it's emotional. I have emotional koans. But traditionally Zen has intellectual koans. Can I clap with one hand or something like that? And the brain has to break itself to get that answer. But not many people can even have that thinking capacity to do that. So it's not very, it doesn't affect a large portion of people. They'll just be like, okay, no, I'm done with this. I don't, that's it. But other people, you give them an emotional koan and they have in their Dharma or whatever, their pattern will stay on that question. Can I listen without an opinion? That's an emotional koan. Where in my body is listening from?
whereas
Mhm.
yeah, so how that question make you feel? Is it that in that sense?
Yes, exactly. Because all of our opinions are emotional. The only reason why we're holding on to them is because there's an emotional quality attached to it. But if we can think things without connecting to them, it's no longer an opinion, it's just a thought. So in that sense, we attain what's called, if we learn this, we attain what's called seedless samadhi, which is total absorption, and the intellect is it's like the ocean.
Vanish.
It's like the ocean. Like my intellect is I have a lot of work, but I have a few gifts. My gift is my thoughts are like the ocean. I have no trouble at all getting caught up in any thinking ever. Um, yeah, it's beautiful because that's been my focus for a long time. Um, it came with a priority for it. It was my hardest one in this life so far.
Were you
Uh-huh.
were you resisting, like blocking that creativity, like that thinking, or
Um,
it was always like pouring out, like
I think it's more like I had these opinions that I couldn't shake and decide whether or not they were real, which sounds pretty common. Um, but in contrast to someone who doesn't have that anymore, it's a big difference. There are many samadhis, there are many absorptions. One of them is the seedless samadhi, whereas the thoughts themselves have no seeds. So that means that, we have many associations that are planted in, sometimes from past lives, sometimes in this life. Things are my mom said to me, things, our parents, whatever. Um, they repeat themselves for years. Things friends said, like my friend said to me, they repeat themselves for years. Um, but if we can, every time we notice it, we cut it down, cut it down, cut it down. This is another way of play. So imagine Ito Portal, but more on the mind. So becoming an Ito Portal of the mind is what many of these samadhis are about. And so all he did was there are different koans. And so what I've done is I've gotten really good at being able to just strike out any thought that comes in. And so I can stay in silence, but even more interesting, I can just slice in half any emotional quality to my thoughts, which allows the emotional quality to actually be embodied. And it's very simple. It's a very simple, it could sound intellectual, but it's actually just a simple practice.
no, I love that.
Yep.
Like, but to me, it makes me even think of Leonardo da Vinci, like the way he's operate his brain, like always like doing things backward and like just to stimulate all the region of the brain.
Exactly. This is how, if you see my notebook, this is exactly what it looks like. I use different colors. I write in different directions. None of it is, their numbers ran. I don't know what it means. I don't think it means anything. It's just the mind doesn't need to mean anything. Like the body. So, I mean, we have these set patterns in using the body, bicep curls, push-ups, etc. Like for a while, for even me speaking for myself, for a while, I only knew certain postures, certain hatha yoga stretches, but now I can understand and resonate more with what Ito means when he says, do too much yoga, it hurts you. Because he's speaking on harm and hurt in regard to it takes away from the goal of discovery.
Yeah.
Exploration is the best goal. Buying
Like
time through exploration.
crazy. Like me doing yoga was a lot of benefits to it, but
Mhm.
like
Oh, necessary even to do the
it,
other things. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, like, but I feel once the Kundalini is spark in the spine, like doing those 4 or 6 hour like comes naturally. You're not really thinking about it. You're just doing those things, and you're
Mhm.
like I cannot like because the spine is demanding.
Yes.
And this is what I feel crazy. And when I was aware of that, I started dancing and really like understand the system of rooting my legs to like, oh man.
Yes, exactly.
And
I
this
love
is where
that.
I get like more fun.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing about the practice or the principle of caloric restriction, because that principle does that. For me, it makes me my own teacher. Without that principle, I wouldn't, like, some people ask me where I learned certain things, certain movements. I was like, it just comes naturally. It's like what you're saying. Like the body
Yeah,
demands it. The body demands a certain kind of movement, a certain kind of
it acts. You
fluidity.
just follow it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so you sometimes you dance, sometimes you're doing different kind of moves, sometimes you're working out. Like if you just
Yes,
follow the
yes.
I feel to me, I feel like I should not have any pain in this body. So I follow the pain somehow. Like I chase it.
That's
And
beautiful.
like yeah, and like in a graceful way, not like I don't try to kick it out. I just want to
Uh-huh.
see her and like to,
Yeah,
oh, you need strength. Okay.
yeah. And I don't know when this happened, but I suddenly, past few weeks, just, I think it's a resonance thing. And I don't feel this attachment I had to the goal of success. Like now for me, it's very clear that my only goal is buying time in a way where all I'm doing is playing, finding more effective ways to play. And now I could kind of see how I've always been attracted to this. I have my old email from when I was like 17. It says Prodigy Project. And I realized the definition underlying that, which is, are there certain principles that I can play with that will lead to prodigious effort? Play. He's specific, and this is what Ito does. He's like, if you do these things, these patterns, these patterns connect to all actions. So if these patterns are what we use to buy time, then you can actually do anything. You can do tennis, you can do without even caring, without even that being, oh, I have to become a tennis player now. Like without creating the narrative, simply let the body do its thing. The body wants to have different ways to have fun now. It just needs these basic foundations. Once
Yeah.
corset muscles are developed and then the neck muscles are, it naturally wants to find different ways to play, and it intuitively knows what it can do. So for the first time, I mean, I had never been an athletic person. For the first time, I was in the park and I was walking by back home, and I looked over to my left and I saw people playing tennis, and it just occurred to me that I could naturally do that. Like, and it had never, no obstacle was in my heart and mind as to that sport. It's like now I have the coordination. So it's also the coordination, not just the physical, because I've been active for the past few years, like doing push.
Yeah.
I had gained some mass and all that, but the coordination of the mind wasn't there. And intuitively, I can sense this weakness. And now that I have better coordination, now I can see, I can totally do that easily, like more effortlessly now. Like I'm becoming this thing, this being that is just this dynamic being that could do whatever it wants. It could just play with life. And this is like a definition of God.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is, because you feel that this body is like you can do whatever you want with it.
What I mean,
Finally.
even if my leg breaks, I'm not concerned.
Yeah.
I'm on that sort of conception about it.
Yeah. Because there's many body, there's many layer of bodies. So once you've mastered or like get to understand them all, it's
Mhm.
way more scary.
Yeah, well, for me, it's like if my leg breaks or you take it off, it's like I still have unlimited amounts to play with. Like you could give me an arm left and I can find an infinite number of variety with that arm. So many things. And then as it grows and expands, this arm could do so many more things. Like the possibilities are really endless, like to the body in a way. It's structural. So but it's not linear. It's a spiral linearity. So it just makes it such a dramatic, fun thing to be a part of this exploration. My experience with doing this with the mind, incredibly fun. Caloric restriction sometimes does it for me too. My mind starts to play with symbols. And I could sort of understand a little bit more why the doctor eventually made his way to Egyptian hieroglyphs and things like this. I think it was more of a natural form of play for his mind. This hunger. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know, like, if he's doing path working with Egyptian god. But this was what I had the feeling too, because I've seen some posts about inner circle, and like I was like intriguing, and like he said that he learned Egyptian through gardener and like this kind of thing. But this he says like, yeah, but the most part of what construct, like he won't disclose where he learned. I was like, maybe through path working with gods in person, or so he's very powerful guy and very like.
For me, he's almost and I don't know, he's a mystery, but I think that's what becomes of all of us. I think we become a more constrained mystery. This is more or less it's what I feel like now. And so now my body is just continuing to catch up to this spiral. Within me, I feel like an ocean. I feel very clear, very blank. I feel like not that it's all an illusion, but it's all my decision as to what I create as the illusion. And the illusion is very real.
Yeah.
It's very real. Like you're obviously here, just not in the way that I see you.
Yeah.
And the more that I play with my mind and my energies and my heart, I can actually see you in different ways. So you obviously exist, but the way that I see you is limited.
Oh, clearly, like.
And as I work on myself, I can see you from different angles, because whatever you are is infinite. But as I improve, I can see you from more angles. So when I look at the doctor, I see a man who's utterly empty in a sense, and perfectly constrained. And because of that, he has endless possibilities. So he's created his body in a way, his physicality in a way, and he still has, according to him, if he has his way with fate, many more years on this planet. So I know some people, they have this idea in their minds as to how he lives. It's like, you don't know how he lives. This is not his life right now. He has a long life. You don't know how he lived before either, but we also don't know.
Just simple image I put there.
He's got another 150 years, or maybe that's him being modest. He might have, so many more years. We don't know. But the amount of things that can happen in 5 years, let alone 50 years, this is a whole life for some people, 50 years. And so, I don't think I can define him, but I have so much honor for that, because I don't think I could define me either. And he's such a perfect example, and his physicality. And I do think for me as a teacher, the physical stuff is important. Like he weighs, very minimal amount and can lift 675, 700 pounds. And that just came from him not limiting the mind, playing. It came from play and playing with these theoretical things and putting them together in a way, in more and more grounding into the body. So for example, I teach systems similar to we just talked about, with input, output, metabolism, structure, and output, and then sensing disruptions, and then it feeds back around to the mind and it updates the structure. He does that. And when I look at him, I look at someone who's optimized those principles. He's optimized his body's metabolism, his body's structure, his body's goal, and his body's senses. And by doing that, he's become a functional, optimal being for whatever the hell life is, for this unique, because we're almost like, I often get the image that I'm like walking like a pinpoint or an epicenter, and something's following me. Some sort of threads are connected to me, whether or not I'm fully aware of them. Like there's a light, there's a ray that's shining on me. And the more clear and ready that I become inside of those principles that I just mentioned, the more that light is able to come through me. And so, but the ray that shines on me may not be the exact frequency of the ray that shines on him. It may be on the left side of the sun. It may burn a little at a different pace. All these sorts of things come to my mind.
I feel it sometimes, because I'm very kinetic, so I don't see much for now. When I close my eyes, it's pretty dark, and like even don't dream much. But when it comes to feeling, like to me, it's very deep. And there's been time that I was like feeling like something huge over my head, like passing through me by, and like all of my spine, and really you can relax through it. And what I call that finding God, because I was aligned with him. And if you do nothing, like let's say you're like his meditation straight, and you do nothing and you let it flow through you, at some point, maybe after 5, maybe after 10 minutes, you will start to walk, but you're not choose to. Your mind did not say, I will walk to this place. You will start to walk. And to me, it's like automatic walking. You're being guided by God. And I've been tripping. Let's say what I will do. And so I woke up in the morning and I did nothing. I just waited and I started to do things. So I see why the master do nothing, yet nothing is let undone. So you can like have no involvement with your life, no at all, and you will still doing things, and you will do them better actually. But it acts like a huge like to me it was like my problem with my Manipura, like control part. Like I wanted to control many things, but at the same time, when you find God, there's like a huge like, oh man, it just, but at the same time, it's not the only answer. There's many factors, like to be always in that holy state, to be centered and like to be aligned. I have to base a life around it.
It requires a systemic approach.
Yeah, of course. Like I cannot like let people influence me or impose their way to go, because there's a cycle, there's a way to walk, and there's a pace to this cycle. And if you disrupt that pace, I feel in my case, I feel disharmonized. So I have to walk in a certain pace and I have to do things in a certain way. And I used to be that way, but people would tell me, you're too slow, you're too that. And no, I was like perfectly okay. I was centered in the moment and really like just doing my things.
And sometimes that flow, for example, is temporary. And as everything comes faster into alignment, then the body will naturally walk faster, for example.
I feel that because I'm not like always connected, and I'm slow because I'm not used to. And like when you're used to, you can like do it like effortlessly. It's a mastery matter.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that can be, from the outside, you can, I've seen how that is misunderstood and how that's a deep paradox for someone observing that, because one, they could see I'm not a master, yet my alignment is that of a master. And so it's a deep paradox for someone to observe that like this person is clearly, they'll have moments they'll observe this person's in total alignment, but they don't have the maturity and they don't have the knowledge of a full master. So what is this going on?
I love that. Yeah, because like I cannot never judge someone by his behavior now, because like, it's very alignment, but there's a way to come to maturity, and like there's understanding, and like
like what I did years ago is the same thing I'm doing now. It just looks more attractive now because things have caught up.
Oh yeah, they do. Back then I think I thought I was like, I'm just a weirdo, I don't know, like I was like so disconnected, but still doing those very same thing.
Yes.
But not with the understanding, and understanding is truly a key to enjoy the experience. I feel in my case. There's some going like straight to the experience, like Sadhguru, but this is what Sadhguru is still like, do you want to think about it, or you just like be connected, be weird, and walk like you high, and like it will lead you to a crazy life. And I really understand what he's saying, and it's tempting.
What I like about Sadhguru though, is I look at it in context of his life. From a young age, he was climbing trees and, has a very physical body, I think. And, I've heard this as well. And I've come recently to sort of full circle with this. I totally, completely believe if someone masters the body, they master the energies.
Yeah.
I actually do believe, yes, we have several energy bodies and theta and all those things, but if enough pressure and enough completeness is put into the body, though all the energies will harmonize into a single substance.
That may be why like all the gods worship him as powerful and strong and like, well, because when I'm observing my, let's say, my abdominal area, it was very like interesting to see how like the appearance of it, like the external, is very affected by my ribs, my some mini blockages, by my hips, or like it's complex. And when you see like the statue depiction of them, like very like full-blown pop out, like perfect, no disbalancement, and I'm just, yeah, there's a key behind the body.
Yeah, like for example, imagine how easy it is to not be distracted if we have total strength in our spine.
And
during this, and those last 10 minutes, that standing meditation, you know, before I break fast, I've witnessed as my body gets stronger, I'm less distracted. Like why? Several reasons, but the main reason is what's there to distract me. My body's more and more in an effortless ability to stand.
Yeah, like to me, in my case, like I'm doing a lot of yoga movement in my spine, but I feel like sometimes, but it's creating strength, because over time, like it's
all about the long term. Yeah,
but yeah, I feel the discomfort in the spine in a good way, but like back then I was so stiff, you just assume a pose and I could stay there like long period of time, I guess, but painfully. And now it's just continual slight pain, discomfort, but like for greater good.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
That's what I love about what I've been practicing lately at the park, because I just have these goals of full body mastery. And the regimen in my mind, it's set, it's clear. I eat once a day, that like all that's done. Like that's my default now. So then now I can focus more on the physical body and movement and optimizing just every angle I can of the body. And now that that's starting to, it's not mastered by any stretch, but now that I'm starting to get some consistency with those patterns in the physical body, now that it's becoming strong enough to do handstands and this and that, and you know, whatever, it could just more or less, it's getting closer to do whatever it wants. As that's happening, my mind is starting to be less distracted, and now it wants to play more than it used to. So now it wants to play like, and now it's not thinking about food and it's not thinking about motion. So imagine all the free reign it has to use itself. So now it just wants to use itself on itself. So it's really interesting. And I imagine as that becomes clear and the mind becomes more full range, now my energies are going to start wanting to play with themselves to a deeper level than they were before.
I've experienced that, like with the conjunction with like sexual retention, it just like pure energy, crazy, that you have to release. You wake up in the morning and and you're just doing your
Yeah, for me, you know, that taught me a lot. I'm at the point now where I naturally practice semen retention. I no longer think about it. Now I'm just practicing more of the tantric exercises and looking at my body like a system, awakening the nervous system, awakening the spine. And my observation is that, so I had, you know, there's an insight here, muddled here, that connected me to this about the body. And I realized isolate, integrate, and then recycle until innovation happens. And what I realized here was I had two dreams where I was unconscious. I was inside of the dream state, my subconscious, and I lost semen. And my brain sort of went an indirect way about it, which was interesting to me. And one of the ways I say that is because I'm always going, you know, trying to create purity by training myself. So I keep thinking the great mother. But my mind pulled a dupe on me in a sense where it didn't have me be involved. It had two women be involved. So I was like, there's something even deeper. I have to go even deeper into my subconscious and find that, create that purity, create that pure association. So then I started to work on that more, and then realized, I'm like, how do I fix this? I'm losing when I'm unconscious. Like, how do I, you know, I'm having orgasm, organ orgasm, not body orgasm when I'm unconscious. How to fix this? And so I was like, I have to go deep. I have to go deep to fix this. And I'm like, some of it has to do with the body. That was my intuition. One of these nights in this week, this was like maybe a month ago, one of the nights in this week, I had that stimulation, but then my stomach flexed and then it went straight up my spine. And then I thought, and I sat with this. And I'm like, my body has to fully be prepared, like pretty much all the time, to receive this energy. Is what came to me. And so I'm like, the way to do that is I need to isolate my core more and isolate my perineum more, and then isolate my neck and isolate my chest and my spine. And as I continue to isolate these, naturally, the go-to for that energy will be to go up the spine.
Yeah, yeah, because at first when you do the retention, you feel the tension is there. But
Right.
once like you master in, like you don't
Yeah.
feel no tension there. Like with microcosmic breathing, like it just
Yes. The ojas
yeah.
get transferred and they go straight up the
What
body.
You know, they say like one spiritual path, like just do 12 years on that retention and you'll find everything. And what I feel is I feel like a balloon. Energy pours in me, like sexual energy, and like it just push me from inside out. And
Yes.
at some time the body, like maybe because like you said, the energy is not there, some blockages, like the body cannot more like expand, so there's a release doing at night or whatever, there's the release, and after that you can go for maybe 3 weeks to like 3 months, and 3 months to 3 years. And
Yes.
so it's a pretty natural process. But I love that because me, I was like, oh, just that, and I was continuing that, but I did not like push the process like to I was maybe doing it like because I was doing movement acoustic, but unconsciously, because at the end it's all that like the energy want to go up and like want to move freely, so we're doing all kind of weird thing to make it move. And
yeah. I mean, I used to have really intense experiences at night. My whole body would get crazy hot. I think my body just didn't know how to manage the energies. I was doing this tantric experience for 40 minutes a day. So the semen retention by itself, that's an isolated thing. And then the tantric exercises where you stimulate the glands around that center.
massage, Kegel.
Yeah. And then doing that, that's an isolated thing. But then those two things come together and the energy continues to become very powerful and rise. I would wake up, I just wouldn't be able to sleep. My whole body was burning. I felt my body on fire. And this was something that was consistently happening every night for a long time. So I don't practice both of those together anymore. I practice the semen retention, and I'm slowly incorporating the tantric.
And you had the realization that the internal combustion is possible. It's possible.
I read this quote that I really liked by Swami Vivekananda. He said, Brahmacharya should feel like the god of the fire of God in the veins.
Hey, man.
Yeah. And I was walking around like this, burning all the time, sleeping for like 4 hours, but I didn't know how to manage the energy. So I was exhausted. I was really physically exhausted and strained. And I didn't understand what was happening either. I just took all the best practices I knew. I combined them with caloric restriction and these exercises, and that was it. And and I did them all at once. And my body, just physical body, just wasn't ready to handle those things all at once.
Yeah, like one of my friends,
it's like stuffing God into a cup. Like it's like, no, the cup's gonna break. It's a shitty cup.
Gonna break. But we're masochists, so we wanted that to break.
Oh yeah.
And it did.
Yeah, and I also learned how to find the sweet spot. Like right now, oh yeah, I would love to have that amount of fire. In a sense, according to my goals, I would love to have that amount of fire. But I can only take on what's in that sweet spot, that sustainable sweet spot where I'm always recovering, where I'm always in a state of pain, but not so much where I can't practice tomorrow.
I think like having a lot of tapa is nice, but like it's not the best way to live life. Like clearly, like the fire, like when I have a lot of it, I'm never like balanced. I'm never clear in my mind. Like I'm always trying to move and like circulate this energy, and like, so it's very intense. There's a lot of progress made there, and I think it had its place when the timing is there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will not live that for long. Like it's not a pleasant. But I feel there's an end to it. Like the fire burns and thing that consumes everything. So.
Well, the more, for example, it's about a systems approach. So let's say if I had more fire, that just means that I need more kapha too. More kapha and more transport. So it's not that I have too much fire, it's that I have too much fire compared to how much structure and transport that I have in my system.
I really love that. Like, you see, it's a very like low mindset. Mean like, hey, I have too much of this, and you're telling me like, no, you not have too much of this. Like, you just need not too much of that. Like,
Yeah,
if you're operating like crazy with like, take your meditation of 15 minutes a day and put that like 1 hour and a half a day. Like,
right, exactly. And there would be some sort of things would work themselves out. But for what I was practicing at that time, 40 minutes was, and with the focus that I was doing it in was, I mean, the benefits were amazing, but my kapha, my physical structure, um, couldn't handle it. I needed more, and that takes time. Structure takes time to build.
yeah,
Fire for
yeah.
me, for someone like me, and I'm also a natural conversion type. Like it's, some of us naturally have more fire, some of us naturally have more structure, some of us naturally have more vata or more air ether. Um, I'm naturally high fire, so natural conversion is easy for me. Even transport to some extent, because I know the technique's somewhat easy. But when it comes to structure, when it comes to storage and kapha, that actually no choice. The body takes the time that it takes. I can push it to increase those methods using, intellect, air, for example. His book is called Air. It's called Transport, because it focuses on the element of transport and ether. And so it's a lot of that, and then my metabolism, and so that, but my structure still takes the time that it takes. So with this extra air, with this extra knowledge and of ether, then I can apply that to my structure by augmenting autophagy. All this knowledge that comes, I can apply it to improve, to take that sweet spot and stretch it. But all I'm doing is, and it's necessary because this is my path, I love it. It's all it's doing is it's giving me more freedom in shorter time. But even then, I'm constantly staying conscious of what that limit is. And sometimes I forget. Sometimes I really can't see it clearly. I don't know where my limits are. I'm looking for them. I'm staying as conscious as I can. But sometimes I'm in a certain state, and it's like, wow, where does this end? Like, I just feel like I can do this forever.
Doesn't.
And often I'm right. Often, in some sense, I'm right. I have to wait till the next day and then learn and then update. And then sometimes it takes me having the maturity to lean off because I'm not sure. And I've done a certain amount. Let me see tomorrow. Let me measure this, and then see tomorrow. I've done 1,000 push-ups today. Let me, and then I'll see tomorrow whether that was too much in this circumstance or in this circumstances and this. And I'm creating a map in my mind. So that map is also structure. So as the structure gets better, I can also get better at navigating through those sweet spots.
Oh, did you try the map mind?
My mind works that way.
Because I was like saying that, and me, but at that time I was very like in the Osho Zen book, like no mind, like
Yeah.
very in there. So I was like, I don't want no map mind. I did not understand at that time
Yeah.
what it was all about.
When you say map mind, you mean like the strategy of connecting different ideas?
I don't even know what it was all about. Like saw a brain like picture with put all kind of information, but maybe like I don't know if it was very a physical thing that you have to access information through your brain, or
It's more like a strategy. Like I'll just write down random words and random letters and numbers. Um, my other notebook I really enjoy. Here's a better example.
oh,
So there's linearity here in the sense where there's times of the day, and then the times of the day is connected to my groceries. It's connected to images that I see. It's connected to, so this is like map mind.
do
It's
you plan
connected to
your days with planetary hour?
I 24 hours, and I plan. Yeah, I do technically. I think I know what you mean. Like today, today is Thursday, so today's the day of Jupiter. But I don't
Because
plan
like
hourly.
I was thinking doing that, like planning at my advantage, like where to schedule that. Like if it's like Mars and I have to be like more like doing things, and
Yeah.
or with my workout, let's say, like
Yeah.
being more aggressive with my workout,
Yeah.
more meditative.
Yeah, this is very similar to what I'm cultivating in my mind. So this is the way that I play. I play with the more connections that can connect to a single thing as I keep looking for them, and it simplifies my mind.
Yeah, at the end, like if you just go logically and like put where your best interest is, like you're in control of nothing, your time is all scheduled and everything flow.
Yeah, like
Like
days
with
of the
great
week,
scripture.
even days. I mean, everything's connected as above, so below, but it can keep getting like as minute as the brain can do, and all as expansive as it can do. So I work with where I can, where my intelligence is at, and I keep stretching it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And so I do this, you know, with these terms. So today's Jupiter, day of Jupiter, that has a correspondence to a chakra. It also has a correspondence to a time. It has a correspondence to the day of the week. And it just continues. It doesn't stop. It continues to have associations to something. And so it has, and then numbers start to appear between those associations. So then there's this association, this one, and then they line up in a certain pattern. And the number 7 keeps coming up, the number 3 keeps coming up, the number 7, and the brain is doing something. It's sort of mastering something without meaning to, just like exploring the body, doing wrist rolls, and it's doing that with the mind as well, with symbols.
So it's why we see those synchronicity, like this number. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's actually just the mind realizing the connection between things.
You must have been saying a lot lately.
Oh, it doesn't stop.
But stop never, man. But it's just getting better. Like every time it surprised me in ways that even animals now more and more, like I'm seeing rabbit all around, and I'm just and I'm going see with link with that God and those things, and very much in line with what I'm studying right now. And I'm just, sometimes it means things, sometimes like to me it always meaning thing, but there is sometimes it's more like real confirmation.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm still on the
For me,
rabbit.
there are two perspectives to take with that. Either we can say it doesn't mean anything, but we're playing with it. Or we can say it always means something, but we're discovering the meaning.
Exactly the way I go.
And then and then we keep updating what that meaning is.
Yeah.
As
Like
well.
living without meaning, to me, it's good if I want really to relax and to go in like deepest meditative state, or like just freely being. But it's fun to have meaning at the same
Oh
time.
yeah,
And I feel nourished.
for me, it personally helps my meditations. Because let's say, you know, meaning, another word for meaning is like product. And if we take numbers, 2 + 2 is 4. 4 is the meaning. 4 is the meaning of 2 + 2. So meanings are definitely real for me, but I don't always have to use my mind to create the products. I could just look at 2 + 2.
Yeah, true. But you mean like elaborate more?
Like I know how to stop my mind entirely from seeking meaning or just having any activity.
Yeah, me too. But when you let the mind go, the mind's still going to this thing which is searching meaning. And
yeah, well, I want it to, just like I want my body to search for meaning. I want it to be active, and I want it to be active until it's tired. And just like with my mind, I want it to be active until it's tired. I usually, you know, I could stop my mind now, but I never wanted to. I just, and that's not how it started. I just let my mind tire itself out, and then eventually it got good at stopping itself. It's like a muscle. Like at first, we don't know how to start or stop, but we go on the treadmill enough times, and now we have that fluidity where we can stop and start and stop and start.
yeah, to me it feels like almost we have to deserve our rest. Like you wake up in the morning and you have boom that amount of energy that you have to expel in the world. So whether like creative or your business or whatever you're doing, and you have to give
more
it
selective too, right?
yeah. And
If you're
like the more
closely with
energy you
people.
have, the more you have to put out too.
Yeah, that's what's interesting too, because when I'm calorically restricting my mind, it's like there's a chain reaction. My mind knows it has less energy, so it's going to be more conservative as to who it talks to and what actions it takes in that day.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's why I feel more like myself. Like, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Because in that conservation, you won't like let negativity drain you. because it does drain you. So in order to like push that negativity away, you have to be yourself. You have to have the conversation that you want, the way you want it. And
yeah, I love that. I think this is a perfect time to close. I don't know how long it's been, but my intuition.
it's just perfectly. Oh my God. There's
2
no
hours,
recording.
11 minutes and 11 seconds.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.